the story, the way it affects a young mind that knows good and evil, and then being left at the end with this horrendous cliffhanger. And what happened to Han? And really, that's the end of really, Darth Vader said that. I don't want to tell anybody what he says. I don't want to spoil it for anybody. But the toys, the music, everything about that movie in my 8-year-old brain switched everything. Where I said, I need to know how this was done. I need to be involved in this universe. I need more of this. This feeling of science fiction, this feeling of space travel and adventure. I need either to make it myself or just to be a part of everything that's involved with this.
Comic books and science fiction have always been a huge part of my life. So once a year, I pack my bags with event-appropriate attire and head out to one of the biggest comic conventions in the world. This might surprise you, but I'm not headed to San Diego.
I want to leap over buildings, want to fly over the shores, save the people from the villains, catch the crooks who rob the stores, write my name upon the sky, and when you call me, I'll be there, faster than a lightning flash, rushing through the cool night air. So start ignition, count to 0. I just wanna be a superhero. Thoughts, emotions swirled. I wanna be the man that saves the world, yeah.
Alberta, Canada, known for its desolate beauty, geographical diversity, and thriving agricultural industry. Entertainment is just not something that this region of Canada is synonymous with. It's a little known fact that some of Hollywood's biggest movies have been filmed here. The 1978 Richard Donner Superman movie relocated Smallville, Kansas to just south of Calgary. And Superman wasn't the only major Hollywood production filmed here. Christopher Nolan's Interstellar was also shot here, along with a host of other big-budget productions like Legends of the Fall, Unforgiven, Fargo, and many more.
What are you looking at? Huh?
Still, when you hear the words comic convention, Calgary is pretty much the last place that comes to mind. Held in Southern California, not far from Hollywood, the entertainment mecca of the world, the San Diego Comic-Con, is usually the first thing that comes to mind.
San Diego Comic-Con is sort of the Armageddon of cons. You know, I mean, I've done it enough times to know that it's brutal, and I don't really I don't look forward to it. Just getting across the street is so arduous. What's great about this con is that it's big enough so that there's a lot of cool folks, and yet it's small enough so that you still feel like you can actually take time with people.
They also strive to bring guests in here that other conventions don't have. You know, they had the Aliens reunion,
right,
and it was the first time that Sigourney Weaver had ever done any convention. And that's a huge deal, right? To grab her in there. And I remember when they brought in the They brought in the entire Next Generation cast for the 25th anniversary back in 2012. That was a first. The guy that runs the Toronto one that I talked about, the bigger one, he told the guy that runs this one, he goes, "You're crazy. You are crazy. You're going to lose your shirt on that one." That became the most successful move that this convention has ever done. They were sold out every single day. The fire marshal had to close down the doors. People couldn't even get in because of how popular that was, you know? So constantly they're really on the cutting edge of getting in the best guests, the best programming that they could possibly have.
The Calgary Expo is again expecting record crowds. And it isn't the only con that's growing. Globally, they're becoming more and more popular.
You know, every small town might have one person who is into comics or Dungeons & Dragons, and maybe there'd be a small cluster of friends that would get together and do that. And the internet, of course, just opened things up and let people communicate with each other across the globe. But before the internet, the way that we networked was through cons. That's how you got to know each other. You got to see all your friends from across the country or across the world. And so I think they still fill that role. Even though in the world with the internet, you got to spend some time in flesh space with your fellow nerds.
While a bit unconventional, the venue is ideal for hosting the massive crowds that will be walking through these turnstiles over the next 4 days.
Well, you know, this has become one of the largest festival events in Calgary every year. In its 12th year now, it draws 100,000 people down to the Stampede grounds, and it is a great opportunity for people to just have a good time and meet folks who are interested in the same things as they are, and I see it as a real way of building community.
It all kicks off with the Parade of Wonders. I can't think of a better way to kick off the expo than a cosplay parade celebrating pop culture and creativity in Calgary's downtown.
I'm marching in the parade.
It's free to participate, but there's a catch. To walk in the parade, you need to be decked out in cosplay. The parade draws in flocks of cosplayers. Additionally, some of the celebrity guests also make appearances. And of course, more than a few curious onlookers. A Dark Lord of the Sith, some Guardians of our galaxy too. This truly was the perfect way to get the festival going. With over 2,000 participants, it took us a while to find a cosplayer whose character costume really stood out. With so many amazing entries, it's really hard to pick just one. But Trevor Goupil's Man of Steel stood out.
Doing Superman. We're marching along with the crowd here. Free flowing with a wave. A lot of pausing here and it's kind of throwing me off.
A couple hours later, the parade ends at the City Center Square, where Hometown Hero officially kicks off this annual festival.
The man who drew Spider-Man, who created his nemesis Venom, who created one of the best comic characters of all time, Spawn, Calgary native Todd McFarlane!
Okay, Todd. Hello, Calgary! I even busted out the high school jacket for the event. It's good. You gotta put it on, Todd. You showed me that it still fits. 1977, it fits like a glove. Watch it.
Yeah!
It means I haven't put any muscles on since then.
It's gonna be fun today.
Trevor, who's a huge fan of pop culture, is eager to take in his very first Calgary Expo. From a young age, Trevor felt commonality between himself and the fictional character of Superman. He has always gravitated towards the Man of Steel.
And I put on this suit. People went crazy. Like children, old women, old men, everybody. People respond to it. It's not really the man in the suit, it's the suit itself, the symbol itself. You know, it's fun to be, you know, contributing that as a fan.
The cosplayers take this very seriously.
I am Groot.
Many of them take their costumes to the next level by visiting the on-site professional makeup artists.
Well, I have an art background. So at a university, I did a lot of commission pieces and contract stuff. And then I got into theatrical body paint first by doing a photo shoot and doing body paint for that. Looked into it and started doing courses in body paint, theatrical makeup, and it just took off from there. Right now I'm mostly doing, still training actually. I'm still doing a lot of courses. Sadly got to go down to the States for a lot of that. There's not too much for courses in Canada right now unless you take off to Vancouver or Toronto. And I'm a mom first, so I can't take off for 2 to 3 months at a time.
From Thursday through Sunday, there's a non-stop parade of characters sitting down in her chair to be transformed into their favorite characters. Of all the conventions Amanda attends, the Calgary Expo is her busiest event.
The cosplay community there and just the size of it and how, how well it's known. I'm in a 30-foot booth with Allison. We come together and we're doing cosplay makeup from Thursday to Sunday nonstop. And we'll do face paint for the kids, but we're doing, wicked costume makeup to match the incredible costumes that cosplayers are building. And that's what we're there for, is to help take their costume to a next level by having pro makeup done right.
Niki Middleton, actress, model, and cosplayer, had Amanda turn her into Gamora. But how exactly did Niki get into cosplay?
I fell into it because I needed work at the time, and then I just got attached to it, and then 7 years later I'm still doing it. And being I model full time, it just ties into it. I act and model, so you get to act and model at the same time, so it's perfect. I was wandering around looking for my friend's booth, and who do I run into? The rest of the group dressed as Guardians of the Galaxy, all the guys. And they're like, hey, it's Gamora! And I'm like, oh, my family! So we wandered around for a while.
The cosplay community here in Calgary truly is a very large extended family. The common bond is a true love of all things pop culture.
I am a bad chick. Can't swear, so...
With the expo being spread out over the entire weekend, this gives Niki the opportunity to change things up.
Throw a bunch of the Dawn dish soap in there, and my bubble bath, lay in there, do a really light wash down, and it comes right off.
Incidentally, Dawn dish soap is what they use to clean animals that have been stuck in oil slicks for when an oil barge turns over.
An animal?
Perhaps. I don't know. You're pretty badass.
I don't know.
But I'm just saying,
I got
that's
the gun.
to what you were wearing.
Do you really want to go
to the
there?
paint that you were wearing? What I'm saying is, Dawn is the best for high concentrated paint removal and oils from small animals.
Does Dawn pay you to say that?
No, they don't.
That was like a total commercial.
It was a pretty good commercial. I just don't like seeing animals covered in oil.
Now we're all going to be sued. It's
Yeah.
all your fault.
No. They can't sue me. I'm native.
Me too.
While my First Nations ancestry has driven my comedic style for the most part,
So, yes, I am Native, I'm Indigenous, I'm First Nations, I'm Aboriginal, I'm sick and tired of all the political correct crap. You can just call me Caucasianly impaired, thank you. I don't mind being Native, though. I like the free stuff. Like the land, the education, the healthcare. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but here in the city I get free cab rides. Well, they're cop cars, but they get you home.
as a stand-up comic, I've never really felt any kind of discrimination against me. But how is it for Métis in the modeling and acting side?
When it comes to the modeling side, tons of work because you're ethnic looking, you're unique looking, and that works well with modeling. Acting side's harder because in Alberta we do what's called period pieces, which means that they want you to look definitely Native. They want you to look definitely Caucasian. So when you're Métis, when you're part Native, I don't look Native enough and I don't look white enough. So it tends to be a problem that way.
I don't know if Ray would be fighting Leia. I don't know.
Cosplay isn't just for adults. Kids get into it as well. Costumes range from themes right across the comic and entertainment spectrum, from Star Trek to Star Wars to cult classics like Spaceballs. The expo had it all.
Cosplay is a different thing that I'm not into. There's no fat Native people that I can be. I can be Jabba the Hutt, but then, I'm always on my side, and I don't have that big rolly table, which would just be awesome. I mean, I could get a slave. I mean, you get a slave You can get you can get like 2. There's a dancer. But anyways, cosplay is a different thing that people spend so much money and so much time and so much effort to build their costumes, which are amazing.
Over the course of a year, I spent about 450 hours.
This was took a week off work, worked on it 5-6 hours a day for about a week or so, and it all came together.
I've spent maybe 2 years on this, so it's nice to be able to, get some kind of reward.
Well, I always choose characters that I think are super cool. Plus, I love being creative and making stuff, so getting the opportunity to be in my craft room for like hours at an end. But this costume is also super badass.
Busted! Costume range from flat out corny to studio quality, costing thousands of dollars.
This one costs about close to $2,500, believe it or not.
But the question that has to be on your mind is, why do people do this?
People cosplay to share their enthusiasms, their passion for the characters.
Just to come hang out and be a nerd.
I think they just need a state to get out of reality, come back to some fun times.
I am Groot.
Geez, I don't know why. I like my 15 minutes of fame.
I actually take time off from work for it. This is my vacation.
People love cosplay. People love celebrities. It's amazing. Get to be kids again.
Who wouldn't want to do this?
Who needs an excuse to dress up?
Why do people like to have fun? I think because it's fun. It's the same reason people drink rum. It's fun.
It's better to say in life, I can't believe I did that, than instead of, I wish I did that, right?
You're cool. You're wise elf.
To me, Peter Parker is another half of me. It's like the kid that I never got to be, the hero that I wanted to be, but I couldn't. But here, I can be whoever I want, and that's who I am today.
Given the proximity to the Stampede grounds where the expo is held, Trevor couldn't resist paying the Kent farm a visit.
This, to me, this is a piece of history. I'm standing at the very driveway of the Kent farm. I have a deep love and admiration for Superman, and of course, when Richard Donner, who had delivered Superman the movie, I fell in love with it immediately. I related to it because you got the similarities. I grew up on a farm, he grew up on a farm, adopted. I'm half native, half German, and I'm proud of both heritages. But where I find I fit in is I fit into the pop culture thing. This is what I'm comfortable with. I entered this contest via Facebook through the Edmonton Sun, and I've entered my photo at the last minute, literally the last half hour of the contest. And surprisingly, they gave me a phone call and said that I won this contest. East Seals was the organization who had selected me as their superhero to rappel down 30 stories down the Edmonton Sutton Place Hotel to do fundraising for children and adults who live with disabilities. So that's how it started out. Cosplay started out with that as actually working for a cause, rather than putting on the costume and just sending out photos and posting and all that stuff.
There was just one problem. Trevor was still on his first costume, which he felt was too amateur for the level of exposure this opportunity would give him. He took to the internet with the plan of taking his costume to the next level.
Within a super speed record, they had made my suit, and just in time, literally the day of the event of the East Seals drop zone, I had my costume within 90 minutes prior to me coming down the building. So I got ready. They put me in the harness, set me up. I was at the top of the building, my feet on the ledge, 2 lanyards. I was really nervous. And then my feet went over the edge, and I slowly rappelled off the building. I felt like I was flying for a moment, and it was peaceful. And all I can remember is I just wish I could share that moment with my late dad. And then in a way I did, The day he brought in a comic book with our Superman and the Flash race, as a treasury edition, large comic book like that, I got lost in those colors once I opened those comic book up. Got lost in the panels, the colors, the story, the action inside it. It felt, I don't know, just opened a whole brand new world to me altogether.
And that world has brought him to this site, which sadly is in decay.
What I would love to see is that hopefully that they can sustain this property and keep it. This is film history. This is Superman history. This is pop culture history. I stand here and that barn is really showing some Series 8. And the house as well. But, you know, film, it's going to last forever. And this honestly needs to be preserved, in my opinion. But, you know, wishful thinking. Well, hopefully that can happen.
The barn, likely 60 or more years old now, has limited time left. The question is, could the local cosplay community band together to preserve this site? Given the broad range of careers within the cosplay community, they certainly have the expertise to.
For day job, I work in construction.
I'm an engineer.
And I run 2 businesses.
I'm a game store clerk. I actually refinish furniture.
Clerk for an insurance company.
I just work at a local grocery store. I'm a customer service supervisor.
I'm actually in security.
I'm Groot.
I'm a clinical therapist by day, vigilante by night.
And Trevor is mere moments away from losing his job.
Never give up.
Will this cast a shadow over the rest of the expo that isn't even half over yet? Even though I don't cosplay, the expo has more than enough memorabilia for me to add to my home collection, which consists of, well, basically anything science fiction related.
Somebody get this big walking carpet out of my way.
How you doing, you old pirate? So good to see you. Laugh it up, fuzzball.
I grew up in Star Wars, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to channel this into my stand-up and television work.
And what's this crap you believe in about midi-chlorians inside our body that talk to the Force? They don't even exist.
They do.
They do.
They do not.
Do not.
Do.
Do.
Not.
Not.
Do.
Look, stop.
A stand-up gig actually held me up a bit, but I still have 2 full days to hit the expo. That should be enough time, right?
As soon as you walk through those doors, there's this, I'm among my people. I don't have to suck in my gut so much anymore. I don't have to worry about really what I look like. I can wear a costume if I want. No one's gonna, there's no judgment. That's what kind of people go there.
Well, I mean, I was one of those people for many years, and the cons, of course, are a place where you can be with your fellow people, basically, your fellow nerds, to be with one's tribe, as it were.
The Comic-Con kids are literate. They actually read. They're intelligent as opposed to the usual yahoos that like him. So it's nice.
It gets bigger every year that I go to the Calgary one and the one in Edmonton. They're always getting bigger and bigger, which is so great because that means there's more input. More input.
I literally felt overwhelmed at how many vendors were here this year. The film and television segment is definitely the primary focus at the expo. They pretty much had every sci-fi show ever made represented.
The best practical effects movie ever made for creature effects. No CGI BS in this one. This guy agrees with me.
With few exceptions, nearly every vendor had something Star Wars themed to it, or they were talking about it for a long time. Days even.
Where did this go wrong? I don't know. Which I'm hoping they get into because with the new trailer they're talking about, you know, like the Jedi must end, and it's like that's the big quote they're taking from Luke. So that has to be the way they're going, with further cementing the fact that like there's things that are wrong here, and if he's going to be teaching her anything anything further with the Force, it has to be something new, something that is no longer Jedi, cannot be categorized the same way. Well,
There is literally something here for everyone, from handcrafted medieval weaponry to modern warfare. Paintings, posters, pottery, even wrestling was represented here.
I've been wrestling for, almost 12 years now. This is actually my first time in the Calgary Expo. It's mind-blowing. I've done Edmonton. I've been at Edmonton twice. This one is it's huge, absolutely amazing. And yeah, with us, like Kurt was saying, it's just more exposure so that way people can come and remind people that Calgary is the home of wrestling. And it's just getting people that are here to come to the shows, and just better for the community as well.
But I was on a mission for some new action figures to add to my collection.
I like to say Harrison Exports never sleeps, and business is a fickle mistress. So that's what I say about this business. But a lot of people, when they come to the show, they look at our booth and they say, you guys have the best Star Wars booth there. Another slogan I've used here is, this is your Star Wars and more store.
So what I need is an R2-D2 Black Series, a Darth Maul Black Series. I'm talking about Series 1.
Okay.
So I need those ones.
Yep.
I have Luke Skywalker.
Okay.
And I noticed the Chewbacca. I think I have that one, but is there... Because that one's from Force Awakens, is it not?
Yes, it is.
So is there one from the original movies?
Your best bet for getting that one. He's re-released on the vintage card coming in June. I can show you on the back here. There we go. Got him on there. So he's coming out with the Stormtrooper and C-3PO and those other ones there at the bottom.
Yeah. Just to make my collection look pretty, I need him in the Black Series box.
Yeah.
Though, so.
Yeah.
Because it's all about consistency. I have ADD very badly. But I mean, I do love this because this reminds me of back in the day. Except it was smaller. Or maybe, no, it was the same size proportionally. If I was 6, this would be the same size. I don't know.
Gotta love the nostalgia though, right?
Yeah, definitely. I bought a Luke Skywalker dressed as a Stormtrooper. He's a little short for a Stormtrooper. I got his buddy, Han Solo, in the Stormtrooper outfit. Very hard to get. And then I got I already have C-3PO, but the one I have has a red arm, and this is the original one with the silver leg. So I had to get this one. So my wife is probably going to be very upset that I bought 2. Well, you've already got that one. Yes, but this one's clearly different. And was more money, so, I spent.
While this is the Comic and Entertainment Expo, the focus of the vendors is definitely leaning more towards the entertainment aspect of the show.
What we grew up with, we want to introduce that to the next generation. So it's continuing the legacy of collecting and fandom.
But what about comics? They've been a part of cinema sporadically since the 30s. How is it that they've remained relevant for over 80 years?
Because it's escapism, and I feel like the comic book culture has become the new Western, the new morality play of good versus evil. People have their avatars that they connect to. And now, thanks to big corporations getting involved, people have more and more avatars they can relate themselves to.
It's a way to get your mind out of the whatever it's in. And I think comic books in general are such a good way of doing that, because you're reading, but you get a nice picture, you get a visual, you get a campy story. Oh, and it's either going to end or it's going to continue, so you got to get the next issue. So, I'd really like a resurgence of comics to come back the way when I was, in the 80s, when I was buying comic books. It was such a joy to see comic book stores filled with people reading comic books.
Having a hero to look up to is not a new concept. It dates back to the end of the Second World War when the first Superman animated shorts came out. The Atomic Age and the Cold War were raging when the first Superman feature starring George Reeves was released. But popularity faded. The 60s weren't really known for their comics, not until the latter part of the decade at least, which is when the Vietnam War broke out. This was a war that divided a nation and arguably the world. The Vietnam War ended in 1974, but it left the United States as a nation divided. As a result, Hollywood films were transfixed on dystopian films such as Planet of the Apes and Death Race. A change would come in the form of a morality tale with a story about hope and the promise of a better tomorrow. Again, comic book movies faded in the 70s and 80s, but the cycle of violence that mankind seems hell-bent on embarking upon did not. By the early 90s, a new conflict would erupt in the Middle East, and a seemingly endless war would be waged and continues to this very day. Could the resurgence of the comic book genre be attributed to this unending cycle of violence? Or was it something much less sinister? In 1989, Tim Burton brought comics back to the movies with his Batman.
That movie, like Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars, changed the way I thought about movie making and the idea of this is a dark movie. It's about a dark night. It's shot differently. It's not your regular movie. Everyone's wearing, fedoras from the 40s, and it has this film noir feel to it, and everyone's wearing suits, and it's like in the 40s, but it's in the future, I think, or maybe it's now, but it's one of those movies where the music worked, the feel of the movie worked, the direction worked, the acting worked. And Kim Basinger was just so hot, so.
Where does he get those wonderful toys?
With such a strong emphasis on the entertainment element to the expo, both from a programming perspective as well as the focus of the vendors, I was honestly a bit disappointed with the small footprint of comic-related material. That was until I wandered over to Artist's Alley and found a living legend.
I've been in comics, in and around comics for 52 years. I started when I was 13 years old writing for DC Comics, and along the way I was the editor-in-chief of Marvel for a while. I started 3 companies, Valiant, Defiant, and Broadway, and done a lot of freelance writing besides that. So anyway, anything happened in the last 55 years or so, I either was involved in it or I can tell you about it.
Jim Shooter was literally Stan Lee's right-hand man for many of his 9 years at Marvel. Stan, focusing mainly on television and film projects, left the comic division largely under Jim's control.
We were printing on letterpress presses, on newsprint, that's like potato block printing, basically. And it was 65 lines per inch, so it was very sort of coarse screens and stuff. But we still did some beautiful things and some great work. Nowadays, the production values are incredible. The paper is nice, the printing is beautiful, and the artists have taken advantage of it. There's a lot of good artists, and a lot of them are working on computers now and stuff, and so the stuff is very bright and nice. But I don't see a lot of training going on in the business these days, and I think the editors aren't really the ones in control. It seems to be sort of the star system now, So it's a little different. I think it's a little more scattered now. I mean, we had it all kind of. It was herding cats, but we were all kind of going the same direction. And now I think that every time somebody new comes in, they want to reboot everything, and it's gotten a little disjointed. And the other complaint I have about today is that a lot of the stories, they move so slowly. They call it decompressed storytelling. And it will take you like 10 issues to tell a story that we used to do in one issue. Maybe we compressed it too much, but I was trying to do what Stan and Jack did, and do it that way. And I never told anybody anything about style, by the way. Everybody did their own style, but I did encourage people to try to tell stories, tell them well, and give the readers, when they bought a comic book, that unit of entertainment was satisfying, and it had enough in it that you really felt that you got something out of it. I think that's been lost a little, and but I have high hopes. So we'll see what happens, see what the future brings.
I grew up on comics. When I was 10 years old, I even had my own file at a local comic store. Warp 1 Comics and Games. I had to get a job just to pay for everything I bought there. For a long time, this store I've watched. That was 34 years ago. It was a more civilized age. As with all things, change is upon the comic book industry.
Everything's changed. What it used to be is not what it is. It was very much so a new weekly issue. There never used to be graphic novels. There never used to be the storylines that there is now. There never used to be the price that it is.
The local comic stores aren't the only ones changing. Marvel now offers its comics in a subscription-based model. It's called Marvel Unlimited. But the question is, what effect has it had on the local stores? Has it hurt them?
Hurt is a wrong way to look at it. Again, that's a change that has come. I don't think that Warp 1 or any of the comic industry is going to be able to stop the internet. And so you can sit there and you can kind of rally against it, or you can actually try and make it work for you. And that's what we've done, is we've tried to make the online presence of Marvel actually work for us and work with them as much as we can.
This new paradigm has taken some of the collectability out of the industry, which is now focusing mainly on movie making.
Like Marvel specifically, they have a mandate where they are looking to produce books to test the market to see whether this storyline will make a good movie. Right? So they're out there specifically producing their product to try and see what the audience reaction is to a particular storyline with the specific intent of movies. Marvel does not have control of the X-Men franchise at the movie level. So they have totally de-emphasized X-Men. X-Men is totally off the radar. They're not putting effort into it. They're not encouraging it. They're not doing anything with X-Men, Fantastic Four, some of the other ones that they don't have control of. But the Avengers, which they have absolute control of, they're going to town on Avengers. So, over the last 5 years, you've seen such a focus on Avengers and whatnot. But again, it's just the evolution of and how things change.
Back at the expo, I'm about to explore my other addiction: video games.
I'm Mark Meer. I am an actor from Canada. That would normally doom me to obscurity, but I got to be in a video game one time.
I could kill every person in this room and walk out unscathed. You can either fight at my side or get crushed under my heel.
Even before I got the video game gig, I went to cons for pure pleasure and also to spend all my money. And like every fandom seems more passionate than the last. Like who's more passionate, the Buffy fans or the Browncoats? Or yeah, exactly. Star Wars, Star Trek. It's Star Wars. But I think that especially when you have everybody coming together and just sharing their love of these things that other people have created, and creators, of course, getting to come to cons and then connect with their fans, or like actors like me getting to meet people who played the game and had a real impact on their life. Like there's been several people just in like the last hour or two have come up and talked about how they were going through really rough times in their life and in whatever way or whatever circumstance, and how the game helped them through. And it's stuff like that is really gratifying to hear.
I've always been a huge fan of old video games. I've got pretty much every legacy gaming console that you can imagine. Now that I've got my C-3PO with the silver leg, it's time for my next item on my shopping list, and the expo is sure to have at least one or two vendors that can feed my need for new, old video games.
We're the oldest and only retro video game store in Calgary. We're called Video Game Trader. We're very original.
Video Game Trader.
Yeah, you got her.
Vendors at the expo had everything from full stand-up arcade games, consoles, controllers, to cartridge games. The best part is most of them are in mint condition.
In the case! This is awesome. So you've got both of the games that I want, and this gets close to my budget for the whole weekend. I'm sure I'll be headed to another bank machine.
No, I'm not. That's a total fabrication, Jen.
You got her, yeah, I got one each left. And they're tested, cleaned, and warranted for 3 months if you're...
I love how you still have the case for that. That is truly awesome. It is wicked awesome.
For sure, yeah. Anybody who loves the Fire Emblem games, they need to reach back and play this, because Fire Emblem totally rips it off.
I find now when I'm playing like Black Ops on Call of Duty 3 for the PS4. Yeah. It takes like anywhere between like 7 and 10 minutes just to get into the zombies to play. Loading, downloading from server, loading. You're disconnected, loading. This was just go. When you get a certain age, you want to grasp your youth again. And I can't afford a Maserati.
Yeah, right.
So I'd like to start small and get the old games that I used to play.
You know, it's all relative. You know, whether it's a complete in box Earthbound, a 66 Corvette, or an amazing Fantasy number 15.
Before I left the expo, I did scoop those video games. Here's a tip though. The vendors have deals on Sunday. Another really big part of the Calgary Expo is the celebrity guests. This is a huge draw that brings in people who might not ordinarily go to a con.
You know, I was 10, I went to a con. I remember I met Gene Roddenberry when I was 10. I still have his autograph, which is so cool. And I remember how much that meant to me, and I was so into Star Trek at the time. And so to be now an adult and to be interacting with 10-year-olds, I know how much, you know, they'll carry that with them. And I love that chance to interact with them and just say, hey, and you know, just let them know that I'm a real person, and they, you know, hopefully get to have a, you know, sort of a sweet moment they get to carry forward.
Yeah, that is awesome. And I'm a 10-year-old.
You know what I mean, though, right?
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I totally get it. Yeah. On this end, it's so appreciated from fans to see somebody they've grown up with or seen or a fan of their work. It's like, hey, that's that guy. He was fighting a T-Rex in the gymnasium.
No! Do you want a picture? Do you want to?
I'd love to. Let's do it.
I'm always looking to add a celebrity photo to my collection, which is ever expanding. It takes up an entire wall in my basement. But there's one that is really special to me. Carrie Fisher is the standout of my collection. She wasn't cheap, though.
So you would spend, what you would do is you go one day, spend $100 to get a picture taken with her, and then come back the next day, pick up that picture and get it signed for $75. So you're spending $175 just to have that experience. But it's forever. It's forever. And it's, you know, I know she considered them lap dances in her book. And she's got a point. But it's for a fan, for a fanboy, I guess that's what I am. It's just an amazing experience to meet one of your childhood heroes.
Trevor, now jobless and on a condensed budget, is still planning a photo op with Stan Lee.
Way to go about meeting Stan Lee, and so I lucked out. I'm meeting him tomorrow.
We caught up with him the next day.
That,
he was excited, to say the least.
I'm trying to keep my... I'm nervous. I'm very nervous. I've never seen him before, and I'm totally going to fanboy a little bit. So, and it's going to be amazing. Spectacular.
I really want Todd McFarlane's. I met Stanley a couple times, so Todd McFarlane's kind of the big one this year.
Well, today I already met John Cusack, so I was really excited about that.
Trevor and many others are willing to spend money to spend a fraction of a moment with these living legends. But it's not for everyone.
You know what? This Batman is it's broke this year.
I didn't know how to go about all that, and standing in lines isn't really my thing.
Todd McFarlane is kind of he's the one for me this year. You know, Calgary boy, Canadian. Yeah, that would be the one for me. But no, we're just going to enjoy the panels this year. Go see a lot of those and hang out.
Panels? Did he say panels? I have a panel.
Comedy panel. We're going to be showing you some sketches from the upcoming season 4 of Caution May Contain Nuts. And then we're going to be doing a little Q&A at the end there. And guys, we've got like a ton of stuff to give away.
That was the good news. Swag. We had a ton of it to give away to the thousands of people that showed up to our panel. Okay, maybe it was more like 100 people. Or maybe 30. Whatever. The bad news is that one of the biggest stars was late.
But we really do know him. 5 minutes. 4 minutes. This is awkward.
We were starting to lose the crowd. In fear of them turning on us, we do what comedians do best. We tell jokes.
Knock, knock. Who's there? A broken pencil. Never mind, it's pointless. so much more with that.
That's why we call it caution comedy. The bar has been raised.
We decided to carry on without Mark.
I'm Howie Miller. I'm a co-executive producer, star, and one of the writers of the show, Caution May Contain Nuts. I'm also one of the two Aboriginal people sitting norm. And we are on APTN, but that doesn't mean non-Aboriginal people can't watch it, so feel free to watch it. Because I feel like we've been doing this show for 10 years and nobody knows what we're doing. No, I'm a stand-up comedian. First and foremost, that's what I've been doing for the last 20 years, and I just sort of lucked out by getting this show going with the help of my friends.
I'm Jeff Hallowey, and I'm important enough that my name is written in felt. As you can see, everybody else have theirs done in a different way.
It's because you're not on Facebook.
It's true. Yeah, that's right. You're absolutely right.
I am May Bodwin, and I'm one of the female cast members of 2. I've lasted. We've sort of had a few other girls, but I've stayed in.
Hello, I'm Mark Meer. I am an actor for Memphis.
Yeah. You were late. You've been in this enough.
And the ducking agent is just drooling.
It was great to share the clips with the fans. Seeing their reaction in person made all the hard work that my friends and I put into the show worth the marathon shooting schedule we endure each year.
Do not reply.
Yeah, that's right. I'm talking to you. Why do all lives matter? Do not all lives matter? That's not how
There's a couple different sketches where we do space things, and it's my way of saying I know I'm just sitting in a cardboard box with green screens everywhere, but hopefully the end product will be something entertaining to somebody else and inspire them. Hey, you can do this too, and it's not such a far reach to accomplish.
With my panel ending, it seemed like the perfect time to let the whole expo wind down. More and more cosplayers are seen heading for the exits. So what was my take on the expo?
Stay away because there's too many people. You know what? There's something for everybody. It's not just comic books and Star Wars and Star Trek, as people think, or Dungeons and Dragons. There's something for every single person here because we all have a passion. So if your passion is swords or Dungeons and Dragons or books or pottery or clothes or something that you've thought about and you go, hey, you know what, that's very creative, that looks kind of cool, you're gonna find it here.
Vendor booth teardown is in full swing now. This is always a bittersweet time for all the attendees who are tired, hungry, exhausted, and likely just a little bit broke.
Pretty tired? Can't speak. Looking forward to next year?
Next one is Detroit, Michigan, Motor City. No, I'm going home, man. I've got 2 weekends off.
Very sad that it's over. I want it to go longer. I'm hurting and in pain, but I want it to go longer.
The highlight was definitely just seeing the throngs of creativity. I mean, the people here were with the creativity on display. It was just incredible.
It was all good. I can't wait to do it again.
I'd say if you're not here today, wherever you are, you need to be right here. Be a kid again and just celebrate the joy of what gives us passion.
One last photo op and the costumes go away until the next con, which for some will be the Edmonton Expo later in the year, or even the big one in San Diego. But for the majority, the next time they put on their costumes and makeup could very well be the 2018 Calgary Expo.
Calgary Expo, I love it. This is probably ranking in my estimation top 3 in the world.
I've never met a Canadian I didn't like, so it's it's really great. I really love being here.
Even though this isn't my first Calgary Expo, every year that I go, I'm blown away by it, nearly at every level. The professionalism and the effort that the crew put in behind the scenes trickles down to the cosplayers and the vendors. It's no surprise that this con, hosted here in Calgary, Alberta, is truly world class and will continue to be for years to come.
that we don't get Anakin's voice coming from somebody who's never met Anakin. Like, I would really like more of like Luke feeling kind of the responsibility of how his father's being misinterpreted, and less being other people being like, oh no, that's not what Anakin wanted. I understand Anakin better than his son. Like, I don't want that.
No, it has to be propaganda.
Yeah,
he is being used. He's just as much a puppet. Kylo Ren has to be just as much a puppet to someone, to Snoke or whoever, as Anakin was to Palpatine.
That has to be it. That has to be it. But like, it's still so weird, you know?
It's hard viewing Star Wars movies as singular units. You have to see them within the larger scope of the Star Wars universe. So until we see how they're taking this particular story with Rey and Kylo Ren and all of them, it's going to be very difficult to
So how long can y'all actually talk about this for?
We've been talking about this since yesterday.
I can talk about this forever.